So you're considering moving to Denver, Colorado in 2026? That's exciting, but before making the leap, there are a few things that you have to know about. I've lived here my entire life, over 40 years. I've seen Denver change, I've seen it grow, and honestly, I've seen it outgrow some people's expectations. Some folks, they move out to Denver expecting this cozy mountain town vibe, and others expect to move out to Denver and it be this tech, very urban environment. And you know what? Both can be true. But before we spend a dime on movers or buying that $1,000 plane ticket to come out here, I want to share with you in this video an exact playbook of things you need to make sure you're considering before coming out to the Mile High City, Denver, Colorado. I'm excited to share the good, the bad, and the altitude with you in this video, so stay tuned for a brand new episode of Living in Denver. All right, so as I said, you have to watch this video before moving out to Denver in 2026, and I'm gonna share with you a few very specific reasons why. But before we do, all that info down below, feel free to reach out. My name is Adam Lang. I'm a licensed realtor here in Denver, Colorado, but more importantly, I'm a Colorado and Denver native. I've been here for over 42 years at this point. I love the Mile High City, and I always love sharing more about it with viewers like yourself. So if you have any questions going through this video, or any other videos for that matter, I would love the opportunity to connect, so feel free. So right off the bat, I want to start with something that is such a common question I get, and this is just the topic of the cost of living. And you know what? Denver, especially recently, has not been considered affordable or cheap for that matter. But here's the good news. I do see things changing. So if this is something that you're still just really up in the air about and just aren't sure about the affordability, or more importantly, the cost of living here in Denver, I do have some good news for you guys, at least my personal opinion. I do see it easing up a bit in 2026, and I think there's gonna be some more opportunities, especially for people with home ownership as one of their top goals for 2026. So long story short, what I mean by this is there's definitely opportunity in Denver if you know where to look. The median home price this past year was hovering right around that $600,000 to $650,000 mark. But there are certain areas, if you know where to look, that you can find homes that are typically $100,000 or even $200,000 lower than that, as well as many areas that could be significantly higher than that. So a few tips that I would share with you if you want to find a home with affordability in mind and maybe a little bit below that median home price average of $650,000 is to look in areas that could be a little bit more older and mature, areas like Wheat Ridge, maybe even Lakewood or parts of Arvada, areas where you have a lot of homes that were built in the 1940s and 1950s. Some of these homes are probably still original homeowners, and they're getting to the age now where they're probably looking at retirement homes, maybe even passing on, maybe there's other reasons. But what the point I want to make here is oftentimes those homes can be found in these areas, and they might need a little bit of TLC, a little bit of fixing up and sweat equity, meaning that you're improving the home maybe yourself over the next couple of years. And yes, I understand not everybody is super handy and knows how to pick up a hammer and install a new section of drywall, but there are still things you can do, even if you're pretty inexperienced, to help improve the value of your home, and maybe just more importantly, understanding that the home you buy at that first price point, maybe at $500,000, it might not be your forever home, but at least it gets you in the game, gets you in a place where you can start doing these little projects, building up that equity in your house, where in maybe 2 or 3 years, the homes have considerably appreciated in value. You can sell that home and move into something that maybe closer fits with what your dream home might be. So just really important to understand that this affordability issue in Colorado and in Denver is definitely very real, but there's still definitely places where you can find good deals and ways that you can still make this a reality, even in a time like now, which is very expensive and for a lot of people feeling completely out of reach. And I also want to just kind of put a different spin on this. For any of you guys watching that might just be a renter initially, which could be a great, very important thing to consider before jumping into something like home ownership. If you're just going to be renting initially, rentals in Denver are also quite a bit higher than other parts of the country. They're not at the top of the list, but they're also definitely not at the bottom. You know, 1-bedroom apartments in kind of that typical range of $1,800 up to maybe $2,000 or $2,100 a month. It's a pretty significant amount you're paying just in rent. So if you are considering just maybe moving out and renting initially, shoot me a message. I can give you guys a couple tips on areas that I personally recommend to a lot of my clients that are really good starting points where you're close to a lot of the action, and at least it gives you an area that you can live in with a lot at your fingertips to then really determine and laser focus in on what neighborhood might make the most sense when it comes time to buy a home. Daily life expenses are also significantly up since 2019. With Denver, as with most big cities around the country, the daily living expenses like groceries are up about 20 to 30% since 2019. But when compared to other bigger metro cities like Chicago, LA, several others, one thing that Denver does have going for it is a little bit more affordable than some of those bigger cities when it comes to transportation and entertainment. So, something to consider. However, on the flip side of that, if you are going to be a homeowner, a couple things that have significantly gone up recently is home insurance as well as your annual property taxes. So with home insurance, part of that has to do with a lot of the natural disasters that have been plaguing Denver more recently. Fires, hail, just some of the natural elements of living anywhere in the world, but in Denver we have those two that tend to most directly affect our premiums for home insurance. So just be aware that that has been a significant increase in expenses. And then the other one would have to do with property taxes. Now, every state's different, and in Colorado, they do property tax assessments every 2 years. So these actually happen on odd number years. So for 2025, this year, we were having the previous 2 years having been assessed. And these last two-year cycles, we've seen significant increases on the property assessed values that are being done on the homes. So this is something that's kind of a bit of a sticking point for a lot of homeowners. On one side, it's great to see that your home is appreciating and is at a higher value, but when it comes time to being the one paying the taxes on it, sometimes it's probably the only time where you kind of hope that the number's a bit lower. So this is something that's just always going to exist. And in Colorado, it's every 2 years that these property tax assessments happen. And you can always fight these in case you feel like yours is too high and you think it's maybe unjustly too high. You can always appeal it. The one caveat there is it's a very short window of time that they allow you to do this. So just be aware of this, that if that's something that you want to do, this is done every 2 years, odd number years, and you're going to need to do this early in the year. Usually it's right around March or April. So with all that being said, maybe you already own a house here in Denver. If you ever want help with fighting those property tax assessments, reach out. I'll put my info again down below. I help my clients all the time with this. It's only something you can do every other year on odd number years, but at times it can definitely help you save a bit of money on that property tax bill. Okay, and then now another thing I want to share with you, a second point about something you have to really, really consider before moving out to Denver in 2026, and that has to do with the commute. So when I say commute, that could be interpreted in different ways. Not everybody works in an office these days. There's so many people now that are working remotely. So some aspects of the commute aren't quite what they were a few years back when nearly everybody commuted to work Monday through Friday. So when I say commute, there's different ways to look at this. First off, a lot of people move out to Colorado and Denver specifically because they have these goals and these aspirations of becoming a mountain person where they're going to go skiing every weekend and in the summertime go up after work and go mountain biking and hiking and camping. The list goes on and on. You guys get what I'm putting down here. But one thing that's really important to understand is there's such a difference in location depending on where you live in Denver and how easily accessible some of these activities are to do, whether it be after work on a weekday versus going up on the weekend. So really, really important to understand this and realize that just because you're moving to Denver, which is close to the mountains, it's not something that you're going to be doing on a daily basis. And if you are, then it's worth being very intentional about finding a place to live on the western side of town where you already are almost kind of in the foothills, places like Golden, Evergreen, Morrison, among others. So with all that being said, just making the point, because I've had so many clients and friends over the years make this mistake where they come out with these lofty goals of just, again, going out and enjoying the mountains and just getting outside every single day. And after a month or two, they realize that, man, I live far south in Aurora and the traffic jams every day are so horrible just to even get over to the mountains. And what once was a 2 to 3 time a week goal now becomes something they do maybe once every 2 or 3 months. And let's face it, if you're moving out here to Denver to enjoy being outside and enjoy being so close to Mother Nature and the mountains, just having a little bit more intention behind where you're choosing to live and maybe having a little bit more realistic expectations. And then one last point to make before moving on. I really want to make this as clear as possible for you to understand that while a lot of people move out here with the expectation of getting up to the mountains as often as they possibly can, having some of those headaches, like I'd also just mentioned though, with the commute times to get up I-70 on a busy Saturday morning during ski season, or maybe just after work having to fight through rush hour traffic to get out to Red Rocks to do an afternoon hike. There's still so many places within the Denver metro area where you can still get that fix without going all the way up on a 2-hour drive to a mountain town like Silverthorne or Winter Park. There's still plenty of activities you can do, even in the Denver area, where you might not be in the mountains per se, but you still have beautiful backdrop views of the mountains, and in some cases can still be in hilly areas where you still feel detached from the city life, and you do still get that same sense of peace and a little bit of solitude. So if that's really important to you, I would definitely recommend focusing obviously on the western side of Denver, but that could be either to the northwest, places like Boulder, or maybe in northwestern Arvada, or it could also be going a little bit further south to the southwest, places like Ken Carroll, and also an area called Roxborough. So for people that still want to have that Colorado lifestyle, just making it really clear to you guys that you don't have to necessarily get up to the mountains to enjoy that aspect of life here. You can still do that with intention, even within the Denver metro area. And that's what I've found myself doing more and more. I lived up in the Aspen area for 15 years. I moved back down to Denver about 5 years ago. And that was one concern that I had, is just how am I going to take living back in the city life? Am I going to feel kind of confined and claustrophobic and like I just need to get out and enjoy the outdoors? Well, I was very pleasantly surprised that with Denver, there's so many parks that continue to get better and better, and just so many options here in the local area that you can do and still have that sense of peace and mountain active outdoor lifestyle. So there's definitely places out there. You just have to look a little bit harder. And if you have questions and want some specific tips for where I like to go, reach out. I'd love to share some of those with you. And then last but not least, guys, I want to share one more thing that you have to really focus on and consider before moving out to Denver in 2026. And that is going to be this really, really exciting time that we have upon us, which is going to be this Denver market kind of a rebalancing. And what's happening right now is, there's been several years of very low inventory of real estate being bought and sold. In fact, the past 3 years have been significantly below the average volume per year, and there's a lot of pent-up demand where I'm really optimistic that in 2026, we're going to see a lot more volume of transactions, which is great for somebody like myself as a realtor. But I know for some of you guys watching, that might be concerning. You might be worried that we're going back in 2021 where there might be a home listed for sale, and the first weekend it's gotten 5 or 10 offers and there's a line of 30 people just to get in and tour the home. It was nuts. And I don't see that happening again. We're not going to ever see those under 3% mortgage rates, at least not in my opinion. But I think what's going to happen this next year and in 2026 is we're just going to have a much more balanced market where there's going to be plenty of opportunity out there for the right buyers and the right sellers. And more than anything else, with a little bit more volume and transactions happening, you're just going to have a little bit more opportunity to find what exactly it is that fits your needs. And I guarantee you guys, there's going to be options out there for you that fit what you need. Now, I don't want to come off as a complete salesman, making it sound like, come buy a home from me. Obviously, if you want to buy a home, I'd love a chance to connect with you, so reach out. But really what I'm trying to get across here is that I do see, as a professional in the Denver market, there are some things that are changing, and I think there's going to be a lot of relief for both buyers and sellers, where we're just going to come back to a more normal market condition, where it's easier for people to afford buying homes, easier to qualify for their loans, and for sellers, able to put a home on the market and not have it be crazy busy where there's 30 people putting offers in immediately, but it's this balance where we actually have interest and legitimate, serious interest from buyers. It's just going to be so much better from start to finish, no matter what side of the fence you're on. So, with a lot of what I just said, that all comes back down to affordability. And that also is a reason why the U-Haul moving index, this past couple years have been pretty dismal. Colorado, we actually went from being in the top 10 most moved to states Now we're actually in the bottom 20%. We're at number 40. So a lot of that reasoning for it becoming a lot less popular state for people moving to had to do with affordability. I think some of the stuff we've been talking about in this video today, if that eases up a bit, that's going to make it a lot more, maybe not affordable, I don't want to use that word, but a lot more achievable for buyers to still qualify and make this a reality. So I think a lot of that's going to happen this next year in 2026, and I'm excited to see exactly how it all plays out. So with all that being said, you guys, I just want to end it with one final thing, and that is just to understand that the right time to buy a home isn't necessarily, next month or a specific week in 2026. It's when it makes the most sense for you. And the biggest thing that you can do today, maybe you're not considering buying a home, maybe not for another couple years, you can still do what needs to be done today, which is educating yourself. Just consuming as much content as you can, maybe more YouTube videos like this, maybe some books, maybe just reaching out to other people in the industry, people like myself as realtors, lenders, maybe even just other people that you know that already live here. Just the more that you can do, just to understand all angles and make sure that you're making a sound decision when that time comes. That's what's most important, regardless of what the interest rates might be or what part of town is considered the new cool hip place to live. All of that stuff really doesn't matter at all as much as it matters just to make sure you're doing this when the time is right. So if you guys would like to connect, all that info, I'll share it with you one more time down below. I'd love the chance to just chat with you a little bit more one-on-one. You can do it over a Zoom call, learn a little bit more about what makes Denver so enticing as a place for you to consider moving to. And I know that I can provide some value with you guys, even if you're not considering moving here for a couple more years. So hope to see you guys on a brand new episode of Living in Denver next week. Until then, have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you then. Bye.